Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's time to call this budget workshop / special call board meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board of Trustees, the day being Thursday, April 30th, 2026. Mr. Secretary, would you call roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mrs. Luna Chavez,
Present.
Mr. Almaraz,
Not here.
Mr. Overfelt,
He'll be coming here later.
Mr. Mesa,
Here.
Mrs. Guanajuato Webb,
Present.
Ms. Haynes.
Here.
Sir, I am also present. Sir, you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting has been duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we will have our special call board meeting first, and then we're going to reverse the order. So Mr. Overfelt is doing some business at the college, so he'll be here later on. So we'll start with the board meeting. And we'll have opening ceremonies. Before we do that, I just wanted to explain again that we're going to do the workshop after Mr. Overfelt gets here. So at this time, we'll have opening ceremonies first with a moment of silence for personal reflection, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And we will have, first item of business is going to be, we don't have any citizens signed up, so we have the consent agenda. There's some purchase items that we are going to be taking care of. Sure, if there's any questions or if any item needs to be pulled out of the consent agenda, now's the time to do that. Any questions from the board? I just have one, Dr. Rios. On item G1, Red Rover Technologies, is this first time that we have a purchase from Red Rover?
Yes, Mr. Mesa, the Red Rover system is intended to replace our ASOP system.
Okay, so this is for attendance? Will it do the
Teacher.
reports and everything like?
This one will have a better interface with Skyward, and the teachers won't have to go in there and claim it twice.
Okay. And okay, and this Blue Bonnet is from the grant? Blue Bonnet Math?
Mr. Mesa, the Blue Bonnet curriculum is purchased with one of the tiers of funding that is provided by TA. The implementation of it is supported by the grant, but the purchase of it is supported by one of the tiers of funding that TA provides for open resources.
Okay, thank you so much. And I know I had asked the question before, and I see it now that it will have some resources for students.
Yes, sir.
And so these are consumables?
Yes, sir.
I imagine. If there's no other question, then Dr. Rios? Yeah, I'll turn it over to the board for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Linda Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries. Go on to human resources.
This is in finance.
Oh. Business and Finance, item 15. First item we have is 15A, consideration to approve the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe Del Rio CISD, the City of Del Rio and the County of Val Verde, a political subdivision of the State of Texas in regard to Lone Star Consulting in consideration to approve a purchase order over $25,000 to Lone Star Consulting in the amount of $16,000. Funding source, general fund for federal advocacy services, Gilbert Sanchez.
Mr. Mesa, if I may, before Mr. Sanchez reads the recommendation, if you all will recall, at the last meeting, we brought a memorandum of understanding for advocacy services for both the federal government and state government.
Yes.
In the board update, I mentioned that our partners, which are the city and the county, perhaps would require two separate MOUs, one for each one. As it turned out, they did. So now we're bringing both of these back. It's the same amount of money spent. So if it pleases the board, I would just like to ask Mr. Sanchez to read the recommendation for item 15A, have the board act on it, and then read the recommendation for item 15B, unless there's questions that y'all have before we move forward.
Well, I'm glad you explained it because it's kind of confusing because I know we bring things up in the last board meeting and then we have to, again, vote on it again. But that's the explanation that you gave. They need separate ones, so. If anyone has a question for Mr. Sanchez? Anyone? No. Okay, then do you want to read the recommendation, please?
Yes, it is a recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Superintendent of Schools to sign the memorandum of understanding between the San Felipe Del Rio Independent School District, the City of Del Rio, and the County of Val Verde, Texas, a political subdivision of the State of Texas, in regards to Lone Star Consulting, and approve purchase orders over $25,000, the amount of $16,000 for federal advocacy services.
For the recommendation, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Mrs. Webb, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Now we go on to item 16. No. Item 15B. No,
Yes.
yes. Two separate. Okay. Okay, you want to read the recommendations since we don't have any questions again?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Superintendent of Schools to sign the memorandum of understanding between San Felipe Del Rio Independent School District, the City of Del Rio, and the County of Val Verde, Texas, a political subdivision of the State of Texas in regard to Andrade Van de Pute, and approve purchase orders over $25,000 in the amount of $22,000 for state advocacy services.
For the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Becky Chavez. All those in favor? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go on to human resources, item 16. First item, we have discussion, possible action to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms. Amy Childress. This is
Good
for-
evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening before you, we are asking for approval for a new job description for electrical maintenance cafeteria equipment coordinator, an update to the child nutrition coordinator position, and an update to, it should be the food service supervisor, job descriptions and evaluations.
Questions for Amy? Anyone? None? We have no questions, Amy. Want to read the recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job descriptions and evaluation forms as discussed.
For the recommendation from administration, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Mr. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 16B, consideration to approve the conversion of a master electrician to electrical maintenance / cafeteria equipment coordinator. Amy Childress.
Good evening, and once again, administration is asking for approval to convert the master electrician FTE position to the electrical maintenance cafeteria equipment coordinator FTE position.
Any questions for Amy? Being none,
Sure. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the conversion of a master electrician to electrical maintenance cafeteria equipment coordinator.
first the recommendation, is there a motion for approval? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 16C, consideration to approve the updated 2025-2026 district compensation plans. I think this is the 200th time that we do this.
Good evening once again. At this time, we are asking for approval for some updates to our compensation plan. The first is on page 146 under the administrative professional pay plan, and that is the addition under pay grade 1 of the electrical maintenance and cafeteria equipment coordinator. The second item is on page 150 under the auxiliary pay plan, pay grade 7. It's the removal of the master electrician. The next item I have is on page 152 under our supplemental stipends. We are adding under the UIL Academics Sponsors Middle School for additional events that our sponsor is taking on over 3, that we would pay them an additional $250 per event that they are sponsoring. And then the last update I have is on page 154 under the summer school rates. We are needing to add on the athletic trainer and a physical therapist assistant for our summer school.
Dr. Rios.
I'm sorry, Ms. Childers, I should have thought about asking this question earlier. We're converting the master electrician position that's budgeted.
Correct.
However, the goal of the department is to train some of our journeymen to be master electricians. Is it necessary to remove the item on the pay plan? Because if one of the journeymen moves up, that way we don't have to bring
Again,
plan for approval. Is it appropriate to make the recommendation with that exception that we leave the master electrician on there?
yes, we can leave that one on there.
Is that okay, Mr. Bessa, members of the board?
Perfect sense,
Does
sir.
everyone understand that? Yes,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Makes sense.
sure,
Yes.
that's fine. So you read the recommendation with the change?
Yes. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the compensation plan with the exception of the removal of the master electrician as discussed.
For the recommendation, there's a motion from Mr. Galindo, second from Mrs. Webb. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, the time is 5:43 PM. We're going to reconvene into executive session. We're going to do that under 551.074 and 551.071 of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we will go into executive session at 5:44 PM.
It'll be brief.
Okay, the time is 6:23 PM. No action was taken in executive. We're reconvening into open session. We're down to item 20A, consideration to approve the personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations. Amy Childress.
Good evening. It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the retirements, resignations, and vacancies as discussed in closed session.
Here's the recommendation from administration. I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Becky Chavez, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item 20B, consideration to approve the position of the Early Literacy Curriculum Coordinator. Amy Childress.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve Ana Lau Amezcua for Early Literacy Curriculum Coordinator with our Curriculum and Instruction Department.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Mr. Galindo made a motion. Is there a second to the motion? Becky Chavez made the second. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
There being no other items on the agenda, we will call for adjournment of our meeting, and then we'll start our workshop. Is there a motion to adjourn? Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy Haynes. All those in favor? Thank you very much. We are adjourned. We are going to start our budget workshop, and we welcome Aaron Kalecki from TASB HR Services. Welcome.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm going to move this. I'm a little taller. Okay. Good evening. I am delighted to be here with you today in the most beautiful boardroom that I think I've seen, and I've seen a lot. So we're here to talk about your pay systems maintenance project. I do want to add, I can give you an hour of board credit. I'll follow up with that for this presentation since it's in a workshop setting. So that's good news.
Good.
So I'll start with our pay study process. As you know, we've been doing pay maintenance for you for a number of years. So we started with data collection. So Amy and her team sent us all of your current employee pay data, your processes. We also had a kickoff discussion at that time to talk about the project and plan it going forward. And then from there, we conducted a market pay review. So that involves gathering market data, matching common jobs here at San Felipe Del Rio CISD to other districts and also outside of school districts in some cases. And then we built models for improvement. So that just involves realigning your pay structures based on the market that we found and then recommending some adjustments to employee pay as needed. So just real quickly, I have 2 slides on compensation concepts. So first, it's always important to reiterate that a quality market-based pay system is designed to help you recruit employees. You can do that through competitive entry rates and also competitive pay for experienced new hires. Your pay system is designed to help you retain the quality staff that you currently have here. One way to do that is through a general pay increase. It allows you to advance pay to market rates and allows you to give market competitive pay increases. Next is paying for the job value. So we set range parameters that prevent overpayment or underpayment for any job. And then last, of course, is controlling the cost. You as a board have that responsibility. And so your salary plan and any increases given should be driven by your budget. This is a sample of what a market-based pay system looks like. You've got a group of pay grades. They provide a career path for your employees. And ideally, what we want to see in a market-based system is the midpoints, the middle of each of those pay grades, aligned with the market rates for the jobs within. So now we're going to talk about the findings. And I'll start with our market sources. This is the same group of 13 peer districts that we've used for you for many years. A few things to point out on this chart. There were 3 school districts that did not participate in our survey this year. Those were Crystal City ISD, Edgewood ISD, Bear County, and Uvalde CISD. So that for those districts, we were able to pull their teacher schedules and include that in the study, but we don't have data for any of their other staff. Another thing to point out is that we do have other sources that we use. So we have our survey that we do for school districts across the state, but then we also pay to access 2, comparable salary surveys so that we can access data on your behalf in industry, so outside of education. Okay, so this is a snapshot of the demographics of your teachers. Your average teaching experience here is 13.3 years, which is well above the state average of 11 years. So that tells us you've got an experienced teaching staff. And the majority, 54% of your teaching staff, has 11 or more years of experience. So this is a nicely experienced teaching staff that you have here. We also look at the demographics of your newly hired teachers. So these are teachers that started with San Felipe Del Rio CISD this school year. You hired 34 new teachers, which is just 6.3% of your teaching staff. That's a really low teacher turnover number. Whatever you're doing to retain your teachers, keep doing it. And the majority of your newly hired teachers are new to the profession. So your teacher salaries, when we compare them to the market median, they are within 2% of the market at all surveyed years. So we survey teacher salaries in 5-year increments, starting at year 0 and ending at year 20. Your salaries are ranging from 1% below the market median to 2% above the market median pay values. They're strongest at the beginning of the schedule, and then they do drop slightly below market at years 15 and 20. And you can kind of see that in this line. Your salaries are represented by the orange line, and then the market median is the blue line. So you're above market for years 0, 5, and 15, and then just slightly below market at years 15 and 20. And these are the numbers behind that graph that we just looked at. So the first row is what you're paying at each of these benchmark years. The next row is the local market median, and then the percent of market is that third row. And then the difference from market in terms of dollars is in the final row. So you are right there aligned with market. The differences are $555 below to $971 above. We also looked at how your teaching area stipends compare to the market. So these are stipends that are paid for teaching assignments, not extra duties. So your master's degree subject area, secondary math and secondary science stipends are all slightly below market, but special education, general resource, bilingual, and ESL stipends are all above market. And then the special education high needs stipend is lower than the market median. So this data is here if you decide to make adjustments in the future. And of course, we also looked at all of your other pay groups, your non-teaching pay groups. So I'll go through kind of each one of these. So the first column of percentages, that's telling you how your employee pay compares to market for each of these pay groups. And then the second column is how your pay grade midpoints compare to the market. So we want to look at how your employee pay, what people are actually earning here, how that compares to the market, but we also review structurally how your structures compare to the market. We also look at minimum or starting rates of pay for your non-exempt staff, the staff that earn their pay by the hour, and that's what that third column shows. So just real quickly, the big picture here, you can see when we look at that first column, your employee pay to market, all of your pay groups are above market, with the exception of central administration, which is just 1% below market. Central administration is basically your director level and above positions. Most of your pay grade midpoints for the job groups are aligned nicely with market, with central administration being 5% below. Your professional business group, that would include jobs like accountants, any marketing type jobs you have, technology is in there as well. Those are 2% below market. Your pay grade minimums are strong. You can see for instructional support, that's your classroom teacher aides. Their pay grade minimums are 17% above market, which is very strong. And then the other two, clerical and paraprofessional and auxiliary, are at 1% above market and 6% above. So we'll move on to the recommendations. So we have built for you adjustments to your current structure, nothing major, but we do recommend that you implement those pay structure adjustments. We're just realigning with the market like we do every year. We're continuing to give you competitive starting salaries. Those are important. And then for midpoints, we're just realigning those with the market values. Recommendation 2 is to adopt a general pay increase to maintain the strong market position that you have. I do want to add that the teacher retention allotment increases, that's a holdover from House Bill 2 from last year. Those are included in all of the teacher models. So we are calculating the raises to grant the full TRA increases to eligible teachers for next year. So for the pay increase for the teacher structure, that pay increase is calculated as a percentage of the market median salary. And for all other pay groups, that general pay increase is calculated as a percentage of each employee's pay grade midpoint. The models that we're proposing, Model 1 is a 2% general pay increase model that does include a $1,350 increase for all of your teachers. Model 2 is a 3% model that includes a $2,000 increase for your teachers. And Model 3 is a 4% model, which includes a $2,650 increase for your teachers. And of course, those increases are applied across all of your pay groups in these models. We do have a few adjustments that we're recommending. So recommendation 3 is to provide adjustments to address market differences and maintain equity. You'll remember in the teacher market comparison, you were above market at years 0, 5, and 10, but a hair below market at years 15 and 20. So we have added adjustments to your teacher hiring schedule that would then also be applied to your current teachers at years 14 through 22. The idea is you're just a hair below market, so we're going to spend a little bit of money and bring that part of the schedule up to, even with market, hopefully, for next year. We're also applying a few adjustments to increase pay up to 1% above the minimum if the general pay increase was not enough to do so. That's just a handful of staff. When we raise structures, we want to make sure we don't leave anybody underneath them. So we always apply that adjustment. The teacher pay equity adjustments are for your staff in the teacher career path, counselors, assistant principals, those types of jobs, just to ensure that they're earning similar or a little bit more to what they would earn in the classroom as a teacher. Strategic adjustments are applied to your administrative professional employees. That's, again, just a way to spend a little bit of money and raise pay where you're lowest to market. The way these work is if after the pay increase and any adjustments, a person's pay is still 90% or less of their midpoint, we add an additional 1% just to drive that pay closer to the market rate. And then last are the placement scale adjustments. So these are applied to your non-exempt staff to help spread pay through the range based on the experience that they hold. Recommendation 4 is just to continue to conduct an annual review of your compensation plan. I always say compensation plans are living, breathing structures. The market moves, and so should your plan. But this helps you ensure market competitiveness and maintain equity with your staff. And last up is the cost models. So model 1 is that 2% model. So this is itemized by pay group, each of your 4 main pay groups. The first column shows you what it will cost to apply the teacher retention allotment adjustments. The next column is the general pay increase. Those adjustments that we talked about are the next column, and then the total estimated cost. So on the 2% model, the total payroll cost increase would be roughly $1.9 million. It's a 2.6% budget impact. And Model 3 reads much the same way. We're just giving higher a 3% general pay increase, so the adjustments in a lot of cases will decrease. This one costs $2.6 million. It's a 3.5% budget impact. And then Model 3 is the 4% model. The total payroll costs would be $3.3 million for a 4.5% budget impact. Can I answer any questions?
I'll turn it over to the board members. Mr. Orfeld?
Good evening, ma'am, and thank you for being with us this evening. I guess it's kind of for you and for administration as well. We're really seeing because of House Bill 2 and the TIA, or the teacher incentive allotment or retention allotment. Is it safe to start saying that TIA, TRA is really going to start driving teacher pay and how districts are having to look at how they're funding or how they're giving increases and stuff like that? Is that really kind of the direction that the state is trying to push school districts now?
Yes, that is absolutely the direction the state wants to pull districts in. And the presentation that will follow this presentation is just part of their efforts to do that. Now, in the process of providing a whole lot of support, but they would much rather have pay increases based on merit than rather blanket 2%, 3%, and 4% as we're discussing today.
So that's, and again, that's really aimed at your teachers there, because it's teacher incentive allotment. Are they proposing anything else, or is there anything in the pipeline that the state's proposing for, paras and professional admin, stuff like that, or they're just going to leave that to the school districts?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, the very next presentation
I know that one deals with the
is,
principal one, right?
yes, and the goal is to have just about all of your professionals in some type of merit-based pay. And this is just our first year in the cohort. Can't look that far down the line. I don't know how we would grade some of the other individuals, but the state is working on that, and that's part of the cohort that we're in.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Anyone else? I'm going to say a couple of things, and it's obvious that where the disparities are, for example, chief financial officer, and then I look at assistant elementary principals, and I just a thought for board members. I know that, when we had that big giant school, we kind of upped the pay. We had 2 principals at the beginning, 7th and 8th grade. seventh had one principal, eighth grade had another one. And so then we kind of changed the administration there and had one principal, and so we increased the salary, and now we have three small elementaries, and we still have the salary amount for that principal. And that kind of, when you look at the enrollment, it's almost like the same as a elementary enrollment, 700 students. But somehow the elementary assistant principals got left out. It looks like it's quite low. When I look at some of the disparities, we're giving a $4,000 stipend for, it says bilingual ESL, it says dual language, Dr. Bruce. But yet we have some areas like, and I think this year was a good example of that. The autism unit, the behavior unit, the self-contained behavior units, that the stipend is quite low when compared to bilingual teachers and ESL teachers. Let me look at my notes. When you have a supervisor that makes less money than some of the people working under the supervisor, it kind of raises eyebrows, like, okay, we need to make some adjustments here. There's some areas that are low, coordinator transportation, senior coordinator HR, the police sergeant is a little bit low. Nurse's assistant is more or less there. LVNs are low when we look at the job market and their value. And we look at other things like the welder's quite low, even the lead mechanic is, we upped the amount some time back because it's almost like they have their certifications and they end up being hired by somebody else. And so we're having trouble finding lead mechanics. And so those are areas just to think about. I know that my term will be ending on this board, but those are some areas that you might want to make some adjustments, because I know, like the middle school, we used to have the enrollment of 1,600 students, and now we have 700 students. And so the pay stayed pretty much the same for all three. No, that was the amount when they went in. You understand what I'm saying? It was already there. Like, we didn't change it. Now the enrollment's a lot less. And so those are some things to kind of think about. And I'm saying this because I'm on my way out. My term is going to end pretty soon. But I think I take this salary study, and I look at everything. And so there's some things, even the police sergeant is a little bit low when compared to the job market. And so those are things to look at and make some adjustments. But it's a very thorough report because, again, very well done. I think we would not have this information if we didn't have the salary study from TASB. And so I thank you again for all the information. And I think this is very critical for us to make a decision, well, for the rest of the board, to make a decision as to where we go with pay raises and adjustments. Anyone else? Ms. Webb?
First of all, thank you so much for all the information. It's
Absolutely.
very beneficial. And like Mr. Mesa mentioned, we used to have a 6th grade campus, 7th grade campus, and 8th grade campus. And every one of those campuses had about 800 students.
Wow.
And when we look at the salary study about the middle school principals versus the high school principals, yes, there's a lot of things adjustments that need to be made. So those are our areas that we have to look at. Now we have 3 middle school campuses, which probably have an enrollment of 500, 600 students. 700? So they're close to what they were when we had individual campuses. But we do have to look at what the middle school principals in comparison to the high school principals are doing, or the principal at the high school, because she definitely has a lot more than 800 students to deal with, and the assistants as well. But there's a lot of things that we have to look at and consider. But I really thank you for everything that you've done. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you for
Yes, ma'am.
trusting us with
Yes, ma'am.
this. We love doing it.
I just had one other question. I think maybe Dr. Rios can answer this. The junior ROTC, it seemed like it was low, but I know the salary, part of it's paid from the district, part from the government.
Mr. Mesa, the salary is paid by the district. The government gives adjustments to increase their pay.
Okay, so that is taken into account, it is on this report?
If I may add on that one, so you pay your ROTC instructors based on their MIP that the government sends, like you said, but that can vary depending on how much experience that individual person has. And so we survey for that job, but you have to pay what the MIP says, and then, another district has to pay what theirs says. So,
Okay. I shouldn't look at that too closely then.
yeah, maybe not that one.
Okay. That's the only thing that I had. If anybody else, Mr. Galindo?
Ms. Kalecki, again, thank you for coming in. Just a quick question under recommendation 3.
Okay?
For providing adjustments to address market differences. And as we looked here, again, 15-year salary, 20-year salary, you're 600 under on one and about 800 on the other. So say we go with the recommended and we go with a 4% increase. You're saying to adjust, so that would give it a 5%, or how much would that adjustment, or how can that adjustment, just to get clarification?
Yes.
To retain, you're looking at 14 to 22 years. Can you explain a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so when we build, and this is a great question, I'm glad you asked. When we build additional adjustments, we're factoring in the market values, but we're also factoring in the integrity of your structure. So that's why we had to start at year 14, which is not a benchmarked year, because we wanted to maintain a reasonable difference in pay between each of your teachers throughout the structure. So both are taken into consideration. The adjustments are identical across the models, and really what that does is allows you, the goal would be for Model 1, we would get you to about even with the market median at those levels. With Model 2, we get to about 1% above the market median, and then Model 2 gets you to about 2%. Now, the market's a moving target, so, you're across all the models, whatever fits within your budget, you're going to be doing a little better in those comparisons next year. But we don't yet know what all of your peers are going to do, so we're being as strategic as we can with those adjustments.
If I may, ma'am, if the board on the actual document of PDF, if you look at page 15, which is the first model at 2%, and you look under teachers, you can see there where they list adjustments to hiring, schedule, equity, and it lists adjustments to years 14 and 22, and they identify 132 individuals. Those individuals, on top of taking in this model, 2% to the midpoint, they would take an additional 1% based on this recommendation. It says 0.1%.
I think it's a 0.1% budget impact is what you're
Budget
seeing.
impact, okay, yeah.
It's not 1% because it's going to vary by teachers. And I can get you that breakdown of what it looks like, but it'll be a little different for each of those teachers.
It's on the packet, sir. So anyhow, so they've identified the actual teachers that fall in that, and there's a list of who those teachers are with that many years of experience.
Okay,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
thank you.
And I thank you for asking that question, because I noticed with the comparison group that we had, we started out great, and then after year 15, it seems like we're,
I mean, you are still right there in the ballpark. It to me looks very good. I talk to districts across the state, and I've seen a lot worse this year. You're in a good place overall,
so
but we can always improve.
we've been trying every year to kind of,
I can tell
Stay with
you've
the
made
market value.
improvements for
To
sure.
get there or get above it, that's always going to be the goal, right? To get there and above. So that's
For
why
sure.
that question was just, you're right there, so what is going to be needed to raised to
Yeah,
that
it's
level.
not terribly much. Like Dr. Rios says, it's a small budget impact that might have a really meaningful result.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank
Dr.
you.
Lewis?
Mr. President, just a couple points because it requires a little bit more study. For example, the welders were mentioned, and we asked what type of certifications welders in other districts may require versus just welders that we train to be welders. So we're pending that information because we definitely want to pay. The real issue, if you notice, was the bus drivers. They're way under market, and they're definitely lacking. So that's one area that we noted that we need to look at.
And we did propose a significant improvement there, yes.
So the bus drivers are definitely below, and we know what kind of license they're required to have. Y'all mentioned the middle school principals, and absolutely, we used to have a huge middle school. Some of us were even principals there at some point. However, the other side of the coin that's come up that we've heard even from parents is that we have one assistant principal at every middle school, where other schools in our market, depending on the size, have more than one assistant principal. And when we started this process, we asked about having one assistant principal per grade level, which is the model for a 6 through 8 middle school campus, because of the work involved. The work doesn't go away because you decrease the size. You still have the same number of athletic events. You still have to have ARDs and 504s and all that stuff. So they are above market, and perhaps that needs some adjustment. But unfortunately, in the budget process, we also have to contend with the fact that they're running with one assistant principal for the same type of activities that they've always had. And we do have to consider either having an assistant principal intern to help them or adding another assistant principal. So there's a whole lot of complexities to the budget that we have to discuss.
The only thing is, I've been at it for 20 years, and I know we added a different position that we didn't have before. And that was, Linda, what's the title of that person?
We have a dean of instruction.
Dean of Instruction.
Yeah.
We did not have a Dean of Instruction. But I think where the disparity is.
I had a dean of instruction when I was assistant principal there, or when I was a principal there.
I did not. I was a principal at the middle school too, but yeah, I think the biggest disparity though is in the assistant principals at elementary. There. But when I look at stipends, we do give a $4,000 stipend to ESL and dual language. And then when I look at special needs, like special ed, self-contained, behavioral unit, autism unit, it's way low compared to the $4,000. And so I think some adjustment there would help quite a bit. And those are my thoughts. Yes, Mr.
On
Webb.
another note, when we're talking about assistant principals and the number of students, we also have the elementary campuses that have one assistant principal. And I also was at a middle school, and I was the only assistant principal at that middle school with 800 students. Also doing all the events, participated in every single UIL, and made every single UIL trip. So those are things that we also have to look at.
Who was your principal, ma'am?
Mr. El Soto.
I was a very lucky man to have you.
We thank you so much for the study, okay? And
How
safe
many
travels.
of you were administrators in the school? That's amazing. Thank you all.
Yeah,
Thanks for your
teachers.
service.
Yeah.
right,
Thank you
thanks
so
so
much. Safe
much.
travels. Well, we're going to adjourn this workshop unless anyone has any further question, discussion.
I have another.
We have one more presentation.
One more presentation.
Mr. Mesa, if I may, the superintendent and the cabinet have been doing some extensive work participating in this cohort. Ms. Childress is going to make most of the presentation, and then I'm going to go make a very small part of the presentation. It won't take long, but part of the requirement is that we do share with the board the work that we've been doing to implement this enhanced TIA system. So if you can allow us to move to the next item.
Good evening. evening once again. So this evening, we're going to provide you with an update on our strategic compensation plan and where we, on the enhanced TIA, and where we are in our process at this time. So as you may recall, this 2025-26 school year, the district is taking, we're a part of a 3-year cohort with TEA for the strategic compensation and enhanced TIA. And the elements that are part of that are to develop a refined administrator evaluation system for principals and assistant principals, to develop and adopt a TIA-compliant teacher evaluation system for all, to replace the traditional step and ladder pay system and transition to one based on bands of effectiveness, to blend the teacher incentive allotment, the teacher retention allotment, and other funding sources to ensure financial sustainability, and to adopt an approach to teacher and administrator assignment based on student needs. As part of this 3-year cohort, TEA has grant funding that allows us to be part of a technical assistance program. We are partnered with Steady State, and they are helping us develop this process. And at this time, this kind of shows you an overview of where we are at this time. We are on schedule in 25-26. We have continued our TIA implementation and data capture and expanding our teacher incentive allotment categories. This upcoming year, all of our teaching categories will be eligible for the teacher incentive allotment. The next step was looking at our administrators, our principals and our assistant principals. And again, the things that we have taken on so far, or we've created the stakeholder engagement and communication plan. We're in the process of creating our framework, defining our roles. We're in the process of working with our technical assistance provider in creating financial models and determining the effectiveness levels of our salaries. And we're this evening announcing our plan to the community and hosting stakeholder engagement meetings. So we are on track with our schedule, and then we will continue this work next year with the goal of implementation fully in the 27-28 school year. So this evening, we're going to discuss the activities. The area that we're at this time is our principal scorecards. So why redesign our principal compensation? So as House Bill 2 showed, and TEA has been providing information, there is a misalignment between our leadership impact and compensation. There is currently no mechanism for rewarding high-performing principals. Our current step and ladder pay system maintenance just does not allow for that. There is a need for stronger accountability and talent retention, and a desire to align compensation with instructional excellence. Our belief is that leadership matters profoundly, so our compensation system needs to reinforce that. This redesign ensures that student learning and effective leadership are the drivers of pay, not years of service. So in designing our principal scorecard, principal engagement is definitely a pillar of the design. We have had design meetings with our principals. They have provided feedback loops as we've put these scorecards together. We've provided early drafts, which this evening, that's what these are, as well as principal feedback revisions. And we keep on having scorecard conversations as we provide these drafts. The current scorecards, the drafts that we're going to discuss this evening, the ratings are based on a 60% of student outcomes, 30% on TPES, and 10% on campus culture. And again, this is for our principal scorecard. The components and measures of these scorecards under student outcomes, the measures that we're looking at are campus rating, district rating, Star Domain 1 achievement, Star Domain 2A achievement, Star Domain 3 achievement, local growth, which is our non-star EOCs, CCMR overall, CCMR TSIA, CCMR industry-based certifications, and CCMR associate degrees. Again, those measurements make up 60% of the scorecard. Under leadership and performance, the measures that we will be looking at are TPES Domain 5, TPES Domain 1, and TIA T-Test congruence to R values. And again, leadership and performance makes up 30% of our current scorecard. And then the last 10% that is being measured is our culture and climate, and we are measuring our campus climate surveys for that information. So this slide here shows a general example of the scorecard. So as I mentioned, we have our student outcomes at 60%, our leadership and performance at 30%, and our culture and climate at 10%. Then in the next column, we have our measures that we just discussed. And then we have our campus groupings. The scorecards are grouped by elementary school, middle school and freshman, high school, early college, and then blended. The elementary and middle school campuses and high school, they will have separate scorecards if they are an A or B campus or a C through F campus. And then this slide shows a general oversight of the score points that can be assigned and be earned per each measure based on the campus. We did give you a packet. We're not going to go, or they're not in my slide presentation, but of the individual scorecards that we have developed for each of the campuses, the A, B through and C through F. So you do have a packet of those at your dais. All right, and then Dr. Rios will discuss the next couple slides.
I'm going to go back one slide just to make a clarification. On this slide, you'll notice that at every level, there is a scorecard for a principal if the campus is rated A or B, and there's a scorecard if they're rated C or an F. The need for the two different is because one is going to be based on growth, but also let's say that Mr. Galindo was appointed principal of a failing school. It's not fair to hold him to the same standard as a principal that was at a school that's an A or B. He's coming in to pick up a campus. So in his first year, he would be graded under the scorecard for a campus that's a C through F to ensure that what he's up against doesn't prevent him from earning pay, because obviously he was put at a low-performing campus for having prior success somewhere. Does that make sense? That's the need for two different scorecards. Okay. All right. Then I'll move on. Okay, so based on these scorecards, the principals are either going to score as progressing, proficient, proficient 2, exemplary, exemplary 2, or masters, and of course they can also score below that. Okay. So based on what their scorecard, what number value they earn, that's the area they're going to land on. Okay? And now we can look at examples of pay. So if we look at this slide, let's just take, for example, a brand new principal. It's going to start there at progressing where it says base pay is protected. Okay. What that means is that, let's say that the principal after the first year did not score at the progressing level. Instead, they were not progressing. The first year, they would not lose pay, but they wouldn't gain pay either, okay? The second year, however, if they did continue to score at not progressing, in all likelihood, they would lose pay. Okay. Then we move forward to the next year. Again, if they were proficient for the second year, okay, it's a 2-year average, so they still don't get an increase in pay. Okay. They move up to proficient, then they start getting pay raises. So the way it works is that you move up after a 2-year average, after the implementation of this pay, but you also move down on a 2-year average. But it's all based on campus success. We talked earlier about the middle school principals perhaps needed some adjustments. Hey, when we implement this will take care of it, because in the first year, even though they may grow, they don't get paid the first year. It has to be a 2-year average. We're not implementing that this year, though. We're implementing that if the board approves it in the coming years. Okay? But that's how the pay would grow. It would only grow when they move the campus forward, when they score higher based on the campus's achievement, based on their climate and culture survey, when their evaluations are appropriate, and also when they rate the teachers appropriately. Yesterday, we celebrated the teacher incentive allotment, all the new recipients, and for those teachers to receive additional pay, the student achievement had to be elevated, but so was the rating. And if the principals gave them a rating that wasn't in accordance with the student growth, their R value, which is the analysis that T performs, would be down. So the principals have to lead the campus to success. They have to be able to evaluate talent accordingly. Otherwise, their R value is low, and they either get less points and no points. Incidentally, the group that we're working with, they've taken all the value they had, and they let us know how each principal did on their R value. In the next principal meeting, it's going to be nice to share with the principals and say, hey, you did really well, or we need to work on it a little bit. And I think that'll also be an aha moment for the principals, because if they know that we're moving to this type of merit pay, it's important that everybody self-identify when you need to improve, so that you could study the appropriate domains for each evaluation and ensure that we do it appropriately. So it is extensive. It is based mostly on student achievement, but it's also based on the professional skill set of each individual. Are there any questions on this pathway to higher compensation, the slide that we have up right now?
Just want to say it's a lot of work, and I'm glad that it's being done, because it's going to create some competition, which is wonderful.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Webb?
Hello, Dr. Rios.
Hello, Ms. Webb.
I want to say that what you're implementing or trying to implement right now, it's also happening throughout other districts. I looked at several districts, and they're basically doing the same, similar to what we're implementing here or trying to implement here with our administrators. So we're right on target with what's going on.
Yes, ma'am.
Good job, sir. Thank you.
Josh?
I have a legality question. How do you get around the issue of reducing someone's pay for keeping them in the same position, but the pay goes down? Because normally, like, if someone's in a position and they get put somewhere else, they get to keep the pay for 1 year, and then it regresses to whatever that particular position is. So how does that work? Because they're still a principal, but the pay gets reduced.
2 points. First, the board sets the pay scale. So the board would, in effect, adopt a pay scale similar to what we're sharing here now. And that would put people on notice. This is your pay scale. You can either go up or go down. Two, the contracts is what they're entitled to, not the pay. There isn't a single contract that indicates how much the individual is going to get paid. So those are
Okay.
those two legal points.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mr. Galindo?
So elaborating on that, the example here, Dr. Rios, say 26, 27, they're at 104,000.
Yes, sir.
So they progress after the 2-year average and they move to 114, right? And just how it's showing there, 28, 29. So at 114, after the next 2-year average comes out and they do not progress, and that's where they can lose their salary, they would go back to what? An example, this is just, I'm just using this one. What would be an example they would go back to?
The business rules that we're trying to implement and develop, I'll give you a case. Let's just say that that you, Mr. Galindo, you moved up after your 2-year average, and now you're a proficient 1.
Yes, sir.
But something happened, and you went all the way down to not progressing, whatever the case may be. Okay? Part of the business rules that we would recommend, and the board would adopt as part of the pay scale, would be the decrease in pay. It would be, for example, we would not recommend, in the business rules that we're going to write to recommend to y'all, we would not recommend a drop from 114 all the way to 99. But we would recommend that in the first year, you lose 7,500, which is half of that. In the next year, so in increments, you would go down in increments. Just like it takes 2 years to go away from proficient, it would take 2 years to go all the way to your current achievement level. And part of all the work that we're doing with our coaches is first developing the scorecards, which was a whole lot of work, and the cabinet to spend a whole lot of time doing that, and then reviewing with the principals, and the principals got in small cohorts and gave us their feedback, and then steady state reviews it. That was a lot of work. The other work is coming up with these business rules, because you are taking money for somebody that got used to earning money at that level.
Exactly.
But again, it's based on a merit system. And I know that we're talking about principals right now, but the reality is that we're working on principals and assistant principals at the same time. Okay, we're just sharing with y'all the entire concept, but right along, we're creating report cards for assistant principals. We're just not doing it as heavy on student achievement because it is, the principal is the principal. But it's close.
If I may add something else, I know the preparation for mid-management certification has already been started at the university level. It's a total different program for certification.
And on the vision of the strategic compensation of student outcomes, the TPES and the campus climate, is that standard across the state of what those were broken up into, the 60, the 30, and the 10?
No, sir. Some districts went 80% on student achievement. They wanted to base it primarily, almost solely on student achievement. Other districts went the 60, 30, 10 model.
Okay.
And then on the campus survey is very big, the one we use from TASB. But because it's about leadership, we're going to narrow it down to the questions that directly ask about the principal. Usually it has to do with discipline and being responsive to the teacher's needs. So it's not the entire climate survey, because there are some things that ask questions about district leadership and other things.
Okay.
Mrs. Webb had a question, or?
Yes.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Based on what Mr. Galindo mentioned, for example, somebody that's making 114,000, and let's say they don't make progress that year, and you're looking at making a plan to reduce half of their salary or what have you, or
Okay,
Their
half
increase.
of the step from
Right.
one level to the next.
right. So is there any plans on leaving them where they're at and see if they make progress the following year, instead of, in other words, giving them the needs, giving them all the material that they need to progress and move forward versus reducing, yeah, instead of going back that particular year. Because you also mentioned, for example, low-performing schools, and you use Mr. Galindo as an example. Let's say he got a low-performing school, and you're giving him a year or whatever it takes to bring it up. But I can tell you, I've been at 2 low-performing schools, and I was able to bring both of them up within a year. So it is possible. It's very, very possible.
Yes, ma'am. It is, you don't lose pay your first year.
Okay.
You lose pay on the 2-year average. So you are given a year's notice, you're given support, time to improve,
Okay.
focus, a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to the next.
Next slide. Okay. I think the next slide, we're almost done. I think I'm gonna ask Amy to help us, lead us to a help. This is just the timeline of implementation. This coming year will be a capture year. We'll look at the data. Although Steady State is already looking at our data, they've already scored the principles, R values. They're already able to project a scorecard for the principals based on the information we've given them, but this is just a practice year. Next year is the capture year. The year after that is the hold harmless year, where they get that first year, nothing happens till the second year. And then the full implementation the following year, okay? Ms. Childress, are you right behind me? I think the last 2 are the business rules, correct? Thank you.
So the next 2 slides are just, as we mentioned, what we've given you is the overview of the overview of the scorecard. We are still refining it, and we are still in talks. And some of the things that we are also possibly considering to add to the scorecards, or in addition, would be possibly extra points to consider our high priority campus needs. So we are looking at possibly adding points for if it's an economically disadvantaged campus, if their special education percentage exceeds a certain percentage, at-risk percentage, or possibly even total enrollment if it exceeds a certain amount of students. And some other areas we have also looked at and possibly adding points are in distinction designations, academic achievement, and reading language arts, or possibly mathematics, science, social studies. So like we said, we're still refining it. This is just these are the steps that where we're at this time. So again, you know, the reason we're doing this and what the strategic compensation means for our culture is it does strengthen our shared accountability. It clarifies the district expectations, encourages development and coaching. It rewards sustained excellence, and it creates leadership pipelines with stronger incentives is our goals. Our next steps are to continue our scorecard discussion meetings, to get feedback from our principals and our assistant principals, again, to finalize the scorecards for both the principals and the assistant principals, and then to run mock data simulations and make sure to see, you know, from the data that we have, to make sure that our scorecards are working the way we want them to. And that is it.
I just
Other
want
questions?
to reiterate again, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes, but it's such a wonderful thing because even for the award distinctions and for the low socioeconomic, bilingual, you've included everything that I can think of. It's wonderful. I think it's the best thing ever. And as I mentioned, I think it's going to improve instruction, just like the TIA, Teacher Incentive Allotment, does. It increases the instruction and competition amongst everybody. So this is the next step for administrators. Anyone else? I thank you so much for working on that. No one has a question for Amy?
No, I don't have a question. I
Okay.
was gonna make a comment, but it's okay.
Then I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion made by Mr. Galindo, seconded by Amy. All those in favor? Motion carries. We are adjourned.